Your Highnesses, Excellencies, guests here in the UAE, and friends, Assalamu alaikum. It's wonderful to be here and to share the stage with Her Highness Sheikha Latifa bint Muhammad and Her Excellency Sheikha Nora bint Mohammed Al Kaabi. It is wonderful to have this conversation, and when we think about cultural diplomacy, there are so many topics that are related to cultural diplomacy. But often people think about cultural diplomacy as external. And yet, I want to start by talking internal. And since I have you both on stage, I couldn't resist. Sorry. Because often there's a question, well, Dubai is doing this, Abu Dhabi is doing this, Sharjah is doing this, Ras Al Khaimah is doing that. We have 7 incredible emirates in this United Arab Emirates of ours. And it is a federal nation. So I have to ask you, Your Highness, is it competition or complementarity? And how much does cultural diplomacy play inside our country?
Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. And it's such a pleasure to be here with 2 very inspiring women. To be honest, Mina, the situation has become very frustrating, you know. I've worked alongside Nora for a number of years when she was holding the position of Minister of Culture, and every time I launch a strategy, there is Nora trying to one-up me with an even better idea. And at every opening, she's there. All our cultural events and initiatives. Actually, Mina, no, it's, I'm obviously joking. It's a very complementary relationship from our perspective. I mean, people tend to forget that we are 2 emirates in one country and one nation. And historically, we were literally one tribe. Some of us decided to settle in one location and the rest of us in another location. Our roots are deeper than what you see, and like I mentioned in my opening speech day before yesterday, when we united as a nation, we didn't only unite politically, but we united through culture and heritage and shared history and tradition. And it only made sense for us to come together officially as a nation. Now, the interesting thing is, whatever we do in Dubai and any success we achieve in Dubai, Abu Dhabi automatically wins. So does the rest of the Emirate. Any achievement Abu Dhabi has, Dubai automatically feels the ripple of that achievement. Same thing goes with Saudi Arabia and, you know, the diversity of their cultural sector and how their culture is coming to the forefront. We're very proud of what they're doing. Qatar as well, and their very robust, creative ecosystem. Anyone who wins around us in the region, we feel that ripple of that success, and we carry each other forward. And same thing for the rest of the region. Dubai has its own strategy. We are focusing on grassroots initiatives, on the community, the creative community. We have the Shindaga Historical Neighborhood, which is an open-air museum, Al Fahedi Historical Neighborhood, the Union, the Ittihad Museum that tells the story of the Union of the UAE. We have, obviously, the Museum of the Future, Dubai Museum of Arts, which is a purely private sector initiative. You know, they initially came to us for advice and direction, and then they went off and created this wonderful masterpiece. Abu Dhabi has successfully been able to bring international cultural institutions to the UAE, and, you know, the biggest names like the Louvre Abu Dhabi and the upcoming Guggenheim. They have the amazing Zayed National Museum coming up that we actually collaborated with them on. So it's a very interconnected relationship where we both have our own direction and we all complement each other, and it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with Her Highness. Yes, I tend to follow her events and strategies and sometimes spy from far away. But going back to the point of each emirate and how we complement one another, I think we can see that when it comes to the events, the institutions, the foundations, the individuals, and specifically the creatives. You know, creatives don't know borders. If they're one country, they will travel, they will get, be inspired, they will, they will just enjoy the myriad of the institutions and support they can get, or a research. I mean, today we heard Mohammed Al talk about the future of the museums in Abu Dhabi, what's opening soon, as the Excellencies I can say, and you can see us all nodding, whether we're from this emirate or that emirate or that continent. I think we have one common essence here, shared humanity, and we should capitalize on that. And if we go back to the point of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, etc., all the 7 Emirates, if that's how competition looks like, then we're all winning. Yeah. So let us compete.
And I think that competition being such an important source for innovation, in a positive competition where you see actually what somebody else is doing, is a source of inspiration and also a way of collaborating. And that's part of the DNA of the UAE. Your Highness, our session is entitled Cultural Diplomacy, and it's the UAE vision. So that idea of innovation, but also multiculturalism. And there's been a lot said in the last 3 days about the diversity, the richness of the world, but also there are common themes that unite us. So how do you see the DNA of the UAE as part of the cultural diplomacy of Dubai and, of course, the country?
Well, I think from our perspective, it's something that's very deeply innate. We live in a society with people from nearly 200 different nations and cultures. I grew up certainly going to school with children from many different nationalities, to the point where we almost took it for granted. Now, a lot of cities and countries around the world are multicultural in nature nowadays. However, the difference in Dubai and the UAE is that every person who comes with their own culture, their own identity, traditions, backgrounds, can practice their culture freely. They feel free to practice their religion. They're accepted with openness. And it's not something that we suddenly decided one day. It was something that always happened in Dubai and the UAE. It's very common during Christmas to walk around the city and see Christmas decorations and celebrations. Same thing with the Diwali celebrations. And we're used to seeing this. And I believe it's something that goes back to our deeply held values that we still hold on to today. The value of respect, the value of hospitality, of generosity, of accepting people regarding of their differences. I remember growing up, and I'm sure, Nora, you've experienced this as well, people from my parents' generation, they used to speak different languages, which I don't speak right now. And those were the languages of the people and the merchants who used to come over to create a life in Dubai and to work in Dubai. And I think this doesn't happen anywhere else in the world, where you have the people of the land learning the languages of the people coming to them and not the other way around. And this speaks volumes to really the kind of people that our forefathers were, and how much they accepted people from all over the world.
And that DNA that Her Highness spoke of, and also the traits of hospitality, the welcoming. Your Excellency, how do you see that? You're at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so how do you see that playing out as you're thinking of joint programs with other countries, or of taking this UAE DNA global, and from Expo to here ICOM to the many, many events we have here too?
Well, I think when we were talking with Her Highness yesterday, what defines a place is the mindset. And she articulated it when talking about the trade route. And in every city that used to be there's a port, you'll find a completely different richness in that city and an openness. And I think that is a doorway to how the UAE is right now, with our founding father and the rulers that were, the essence of the creation of this nation. So the mindset was enabled. Growing up in a multicultural country, before knowing the word multiculturalism is something by itself, and then taking that kind of a mindset to your job, to the work we do, to the individuals we see. So one of the projects, for example, when we look at a project, we look at how this project's values connects with the values of the UAE. How it's a project that looks into the human capital in terms of making sure that there's a point of a sustainability to take it next, expertise, research. Our work recently in Mosul, it took 7 years to rebuild a mosque and churches, and having people from different background. The Muslim is restoring the church, the Christian is restoring the mosque, and then hearing the adhan for the first time when we went there. Mina, you were with us. You were with me when we flew in 2018 to Baghdad, signing in Baghdad. We couldn't go to Mosul because Daesh just left Mosul, signing the MOU, and then celebrating just recently in Mosul that kind of an achievement. And let me tell you, we forgot about the buildings. The buildings were so beautiful, the restoration was just spectacular. But the youth, as Muhammad mentioned in his speech, they were the essence of Mosul and the event. They were activating the book fairs, the cinemas, the music fairs, everything. I mean, you felt we felt we were in a youthful place, right? I think we were the eldest there, oldest people walking around and celebrating with them. But this is where the UAE looks at its values and multiculturalism and connects with the point that I just mentioned, our shared humanity between us. So I think for us in cultural diplomacy, and we don't do it alone. So we do it with institutions such as the UNESCO, such as ICOM, such as capacity building. Have great partners who helped us train more than 7,000 Iraqis, provide jobs for more than 3,000. So there is a sustainability element. So this is just a model we do want to replicate in other places and use the know-how that we worked on with our local community, international community, and then take it to the next level.
Yeah. The Mosul project is very close to my heart because my father's hometown is Mosul, and the UAE was very generous in letting me have a sneak peek. But this idea of it was the people, it was the real culture in terms of what connects people that made this project so incredible. And Your Highness, this is one of the things also about Dubai, that thinking about the people first and then you build around it. And so that, what I really would like to hear from you is this idea of what is top down and what is bottom up and what becomes organic. It was incredible what you just said. You said we took it for granted that we spoke these languages and then we had all these people around us and it was just normal to be with them at a time where globally, sadly, we see more polarization. So tell us that, bottom up, top down, but also thinking of the people at the center of what you do.
Well, I think what Mina, you're talking about is where the vision comes from and why we do what we do. When I was appointed the chairwoman of the Dubai Culture and Arts Authority in 2019, first of all, this speaks to the agility of the government within which we work. And I knew of my appointment through a tweet from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. And within that tweet, he mentioned that he wanted a new direction for the authority, and he wanted it ready within a month. He also mentioned the top vision that he had for the cultural industry in Dubai. And he said, I want the cultural industry in Dubai to be as strong as the business industry in Dubai. And that was it. That was the vision. Now, for us, the way we created our strategy and our new direction is we realized that, we could sit in our offices and come up with 100 strategies and 1,000 ideas for initiatives, but we wouldn't know if those ideas would be beneficial to the community. So what we had to do is we wanted to involve them from day one. We set up focus groups. I held a series of majlises. A majlis is a traditional gathering where you gather with a number of people and take their feedback and have open discussions. We created workshops, town hall meetings, and the team did a really good job getting all this feedback from our stakeholders, basically. And essentially, all that feedback went into creating these strategies, and they were with us. We were in connection with them while we were creating those strategies. Now, we are very lucky to be working in Dubai and within the Dubai government because, as you know, Mina, this is one of the fastest working governments in the world. And it's, I think by now it's the speed in which and the agility in which the Dubai government works has surpassed the private sector. So we were so lucky to be able to, once we are finished with the strategy, we go through the process of the approval within the government system. But it's a very agile process because you have all the decision makers, you have the finance team, you have strategy, you have legislation, all sitting on the same table, discussing the strategy with you, filling in the gaps, ironing out the bumps. So by the time it goes up to be approved by His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed, the Crown Prince of Dubai and the chairman of the Executive Council of Dubai, it's a ready and robust and strong strategy that has the buy-in of the stakeholders and the private sector and the creatives, and it's ready for him to approve. And usually that process doesn't take more than 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it is, I would say the vision is top-down. However, the strategy and the plan is bottom-up, but also the reason I feel we're in a very lucky position is we have room to maneuver within that strategy. If we are, working on our initiatives or implementing something and it doesn't work, we have the space to go back to our leadership and say, this is not going to work this way, we have to change it to this. And immediately the shift happens. So that's basically how work happens in Dubai.
But Your Highness, it takes bravery to say, we decided this, it hasn't worked, and we want to shift, right? So how, this is really interesting also in cultural diplomacy to be able to have that agility, as you said. So is this the Dubai way, to say that we're agile, but also the possibility of shifting when you've explored how it works on the ground?
We have one North Star guiding everything that we do within Dubai government. And again, that's another vision that came from top down. His Highness always emphasized that everything we do within the Dubai government is for the benefit of the people. And the end goal is the happiness of the people of Dubai, whether they're locals, whether they're residents, whether they're visitors. If the people are happy, you're doing what you're doing right. And he always said on numerous occasions, laws and regulations are in place to serve people, not to hinder their work and their life. So yes, I believe this is a Dubai and the UAE way as well.
Of course, I tend to agree completely and fully with Her Highness. And what I like about the approach that she articulated, it is something that we worked on in the federal system. I remember early in 2018, and she also graced us with her presence when it came to building on the creative economy or cultural strategy for the whole UAE. And that was, of course, the chairs of the local authorities. I remember having it under the dome of the Louvre. And of course, we had talents, foundations, sectors, nonprofit, everyone that is part of the picture that, or the mosaic of the creative and cultural space in the UAE, not just in certain emirate. And that by itself helped us in terms of building the book that, of course, takes it to the level of what's beautiful here in the UAE, that the local authorities have the weight, if not higher, similar to the federal authority. Because at the end of the day, the way the job is being looked at or treated is very simple, yet very intentional. And when I say that, it's because you start with the people element and you start with the experts and of course the vision, as Her Highness mentioned, and then how you build that strategy, but most importantly, how you activate it. And we're always questioned in terms of the impact and the time frame of activating it. What I want to mention as well, specifically when you're in the culture and the creative industries, the leader has to be really connected to individuals. Recently, I really asked Her Highness to join her in a tour in D3.
As usual.
You
asked because it was going to be imposed, right?
So the spy. So I made sure, I want to make sure that I wanted to spend time with her, need to catch up and celebrating the Dubai Design Week. What I noticed from her, and she doesn't know that, what I noticed, she connected with each booth and artist and student and talent. Her questions were questions that I learned from, but most importantly, activating projects while talking with them. From big project to knowing exactly where she can place a beautiful table that we saw there. So thank you for the way you are connecting with the people, you're connecting with the creative community, because we witnessed the challenges during COVID and how the creative sector was really affected by that lockdown. And we all, we put our heads together and said, okay, how can we keep the business afloat? And taking grants or taking from our budget that was supposed to be for events, marketing, whatever it is, and having the only fund scheme in the region to support the creatives, because it didn't sound right to just wait for the switch to be on. So I think we need always to think of, it's beautiful to have a strategy, it's beautiful to activate it, but without the people, I don't think we will be able to have a strategy moving forward.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit because we are here to talk also about museums. We've talked culture, broad stroke. I want to hone in a little on museums, and we've just had incredible speeches to start the day, but really, as His Excellency Mohammed Al was reminding us of everything that's coming up in the next few months, it was incredibly exciting. But also here in Dubai, the museums are incredible. We're home to the Museum of the Future. So when we talk about the future of museums, we actually have a museum for the future. And this idea of how that has helped also shape your thinking about the future of museums. Your Highness, how do you see it?
I need to think about this question a little bit. But I think, the museum, especially in Dubai, take from the nature of Dubai. Our nature is very forward-thinking, future building, but also very connected to our roots and traditions. And if we look at the world today, globalization is changing. We are in a hyper-connected world where news travel at the speed of light, but also that creates a very polarized world. And we have a very global culture emerging within the youth. But at the same time, we see trends of celebrating local identity and cultural authenticity. So I believe museums should be reflecting that. We are a global city, we are global countries, but I think the beauty in the world lies in the differences of culture. You know, for the past couple of decades, we have been connecting across borders through our similarities, trying to find what's similar between us as people and as cultures. But I think today we should connect through our differences and celebrate them, because, I mean, if you can imagine for a second with me, if we all spoke the same language, if we all wore the same clothes, ate the same food, lived in identical environments, can you imagine what kind of a boring world that would be? And I believe our differences is what creates a beautiful tapestry of colors and shapes and forms in this world. And I think people and countries and their national museums and their national institutions should start celebrating these individual cultures and bringing them to life. I think we are some of the people left on earth who live our traditions on a daily basis, and we're very proud of it. We do get some criticism for it sometimes, but it's okay, you know, we contribute to this colorful tapestry, which is this world. And I believe the world is shifting into that direction now.
Your Excellency, you mentioned that you convened under the dome of the Louvre. Many of us have convened under the dome of the Louvre.
The grace of...
That's right. And so I wanted to ask you, I mean, again, when we talk about cultural diplomacy, I mean, what an amazing feat of cultural diplomacy to have the Louvre, and that is such a, you know, state-to-state, institution-to-institution relationship, but also in your position, both as Minister of State for the UAE government, but also, you know, all the cultural positions that you've held. How important it is, Her Highness spoke about the differences, and actually then you find ways to connect with other communities, with other countries, highlighting those differences, but also finding that they can be the dome that brings us together.
I mean, I can't add to how she beautifully, articulated the story of the culture and how it's important that we embrace our differences, yet also respect our values. Mohammed mentioned that the Louvre is the first universal museum, because I was also lucky to be working with him during the acquisition phase of the Louvre, artwork. And the story was very specific. The story was how we can maintain that universality when it comes to the story, the connection to the region, and what will make Louvre relevant, and most importantly, an educational element. And he always said it. He said, Nora, it will not always be the most expensive artwork in a bid and out there. It should be the most one that will have beyond just the sensational price on it. Is it the education? Is it the region? Is it the story that connects to the thread that we have, and specifically that in Saadiyat? So the first room that you enter in the Louvre, who didn't go to the Louvre yet, it tells you that we're one. And in our holy book, we are one. And maybe, I'm sure the other holy books or the beliefs and values, I believe values are beyond even religion, if I may say that, because I think being human first, and then you can practice whatever. So that is very much reflected and portrayed in the first hall, where you go and you see the journey of the regions and how they're connected and the artifacts and everything. And then you take your journey up to the shared kind of a link that we have together based on a time frame and based on the connectivity we had. And I think this is, again, going back to the DNA and the values Her Highness is talking about and we're talking about. So I believe it's, yes, and I would love to hear from Her Highness, because we're talking about museums, specifically I'm a huge fan of her son Muhammad, how her kids, what excites them in museums? Because sometimes you just want to be with kids in museums to be able to work on the next 10-year strategy instead of calling the big fours, for example, if they're still around after ChatGPT. But I think it is really important for us to look at this kind of a strong core and then the future that will take us to where we want to be.
So, Your Highness, Her Excellency has said we need to also hear a little bit more about your children's visits to the museum, because we know that you see culture through the eyes not only of your children, but the next generation, for those in Dubai or beyond. How you see that youth element and through your children's eyes?
I mean, unfortunately, not enough. I've been so busy, and they've been asking me to take them to the museums, but I didn't have time yet. My son did visit the Museum of the Future, and he did visit our national museum, our Dubai-based museum, the historical neighborhood of Shindaga. And the first thing I noticed was, obviously in the the Museum of the Future, they were fascinated with the technology and how, the future was portrayed and how they can contribute to that, to creating that future. But also I noticed how hungry they were to understand more about their identity and who they were and where they came from. Because, all parents here know that children need an identity to anchor into when they're growing up. And it really encourages me more to bring our culture to the forefront and really, shine a light on who we are, where we came from, why we do what we do, and why we are how we are. And I think that's the important takeaway that I took from it.
I want to ask you also about the public-private collaboration that we see in the cultural sector in Dubai, and we have an upcoming museum that is really led by the private sector. So also cultural diplomacy is not about state to state or city to city, but it's also within the different stakeholders that includes the private sector. How did that come about, and how do you think that adds to the cultural realm?
Again, that was a top-down vision. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of Dubai, Prime Minister of the UAE and Vice President of the President of the UAE, said he always emphasized the importance of working with the private sector. Now, having them involved in large-scale projects that Dubai is doing, having them involved in the directions we decide to take, having them involved in, large-scale plans, is making them feel like they are part of the decision-making, and they are part of the ownership when it comes to delivering on these projects. And again, a lot of people in the private sector, you see, want to contribute, but don't know exactly in which direction. And we usually guide them to, the strategic initiatives that we want to create. And having that voice as well from the private sector is very important in shaping our decisions. And not only I'm not only talking about businesses in the private sector, I'm also talking about the creatives. You have a lot of creative initiatives led purely by families who wanted to contribute. We have the Sarkal Avenue within the Al Goz creative zone, which used to be an industrial area. It had factories, it had warehouses. And the Al Sarkal family came in and said, let's turn our warehouse into a creative space and invite creatives to create here and set up their studios. And that's how it grew from the grassroots. So when you involve the private sector, the outcome is very different and it's very authentic. And I want to say one thing, which is the reason we exist as a government entity is to support the growth of the private sector and the creative industry, because in Dubai it's always been a grassroots movement. We're not there to direct it, we are there to enable it to grow, we're there to support it, and we're there to help partner with them if they need something implemented and they want the government's help as well.
So we're close. We're close to ending the session, but I still have a couple of questions. That's the problem when you bring a journalist to do this. They always have more questions. So I'll be very brief. Okay, Your Excellency, to you. people who are gathered here under the ICOM umbrella, and they're about to wrap up this incredible meeting in Dubai. What's one policy, what's one call to action you'd like them to advocate for now that they've spent time here in the UAE in terms of cultural diplomacy?
Okay, in terms of cultural diplomacy.
Or wider, I don't want to limit you.
Wider. I mean, just enjoy this opportunity and journey that you're in. We all go through journeys, and the most important thing is the openness of any journey that we take. Yet, above that is respecting this journey and how it will affect the others, and how others have different set of values. So respecting that kind of a way of enjoying that journey. It's as if you're driving in the road and you don't want to take over or be the bad driver. I mean, the way here to Dubai, I had a very interesting experience with someone else who was just, he felt he owned the road. Okay? He felt he owned it. I mean, his shutter was down, the music was up, and he was having fun, and his car was so loud and yellow. I don't know if he's here with us today, but we don't own the road. We share the road. So let's respect that. Thank you.
And finally, Your Highness, we've heard so many inspirational speeches. There have been inspirational conversations here, and I'm sure people will take away a lot from them. But as they get ready to leave Dubai, what do you want them to take with them? What one thought do you want them to continue to carry with them?
I'm actually going to repeat something His Highness Sheikh Hamdan, the Crown Prince of Dubai, said yesterday when he met the President of ICOM, Mr. Amanardi. He said, when you leave Dubai, I want you to always remember us and never forget this experience that you had here. So I hope we left enough of an impact on all our visitors for them to never forget Dubai.
Thank you. And with that, Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please thank my two incredible speakers as we move on.
Thank you.